Okay, week two.
Week 2.
We're back. We're being consistent with it. We're not on time, but we're consistent. So as far as time goes across weeks, I'm pretty happy.
Mm-hmm.
But just to break down for future Mason and Sander, we had a great meeting with a new business partner last night. Everything's going well. This last week was a very hard push week for me. We got a lot of work done though, which is awesome. I was pretty consistent with the gym. I'm happy with that. And moving forward, it's going to be some Excel sheet work probably next week. And then after that, we're going to start signing NDAs and getting into meat and potatoes of everything.
Yeah, I think we can work on the business plan too. So we have some stuff that he mentioned that we could revise based on the Excel sheet and based on his recommendations for like hours and cost and stuff like that. And now that we have a better idea what we're doing with the Excel sheet, we can probably incorporate our like stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 aspects into the business plan.
Yep. I concur. I also want to map out just what the cost and projections analysis is going to look like. That way, once we get real numbers, we can just plug and play and like the number spits out real time. I think
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, for sure. So we can edit it live. That'd be sick.
All right. I have 3 quotes. They're all quotes this week. 3 quotes to talk about.
took I didn't take quotes. I took like ideas that I pulled from a podcast that I listened to.
Okay, cool. Recently, I've been listening to a lot of the Modern Wisdom podcast and some of Alex Ramose's podcast called The Game. And I found his $100 million offers book on his Spotify. So that's what I'm listening to now. So I think all my quotes are Hormozy quotes, but they're good.
All of mine are Hormozy too, or Hormozy themed. Because I've also been listening to the podcast and Modern Wisdom.
Yeah.
And, a few others by him. So they're all his theme.
That's fine. Next week, I'll quote last week's podcast from us, and it'll be great. Just like have an endless positive feedback loop. Okay, do you want to get us started?
Sure. So what do you think about people who care now will be dead when you're dead? So why do you care what they think?
I have never cared what people think.
Mm-hmm.
That's not true. I cared when I was a kid, right? Because when I was a kid, I was chubby, I had glasses, I was short, I had braces, I was just fucking ugly. I put gel in my hair, but now like I have it now. It was like way too much and way too slicked over. I looked like Urkel. And all I cared about was what other people thought because I didn't think much of myself, right? But as I got older, I started to, self-improve and work on myself, and I focused internally, and I stopped caring what other people think because I started to care about myself. And so I think those two things go hand in hand. It's how much do you care about yourself, inversely proportional to how much do you care about what other people's perception of you are.
I think for me, it's different. Up until recently, I've really kind of cared what other people think.
You're like 4th grade Mason?
I am. I'm like 4th grade Mason. Yeah. And I think that has to do with my upbringing. I think that there was a lot of pressure put on me to account for what other people feel about what I'm doing more than even how I feel about what I'm doing. So it was like a constant judgment loop, like, why are you doing that? Or, you shouldn't do that because of X. So I constantly was in the frame of mind of, okay, I have to put myself in someone else's shoes constantly that I can't even put myself in my own shoes to figure out what I want to do or, how I want to approach my day or whatever. And it was up until more recently that I started to kind of think about, okay, what do I want to do? What is important for me today? How can I grow myself rather than focusing on other people's opinion of how I'm going about my day or how I'm going about my things? And it's really helped me, A, be more productive throughout the day and progress at a quicker rate. But B, it's helped my mental health just to feel better too, because I feel like now I'm in myself, I can analyze myself and I don't have to worry about, what X person thinks. If X person thinks something negative, then so be it, whatever. If they think something positive, then cool. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't change how I approach my day ultimately, right, which is different than what it used to be for me.
Being positive in yourself and comfortable in your own skin is important, but I think equally important, especially in the industry that we're getting into, is understanding the perspective of others. And so if being insecure about yourself for so long has given you the ability to read into what other people feel, that is going to make you a very dangerous salesman. Because now you can put yourself in your customer's shoes in every conversation and get them exactly what they want quicker than anybody else can, right? So take my parents, for example. My dad is really good at putting himself in other people's shoes and viewing things from their perspective. And that makes him a good manager at work, a good boss, right? My mom only sees the world from her perspective. She cannot put herself in other people's shoes, right? So to come to an agreement on something is really difficult with her because it's got to be her way. And if it's not her way, then it's wrong, right? And it takes a lot of work to try and get her to see the world from someone else's eyes, my eyes in this instance. And that's challenging, right? But, you know, my dad sees it so often at work, and that's gotten him up the ladder at NASA. Seeing other people's perspectives is incredibly important. So there's positives and negatives to take from that, I think.
Yeah. And I mean, I think you do see other people's perspectives. I mean, we've had a lot of really good conversations.
No, we do. That's what I'm saying. But I'm saying, like,
I thought I took it as you were differentiating how you approach things to how I approach things, and I understood that way.
What I'm saying is, some of the personal growth you're doing right now is becoming more comfortable in your own skin and not worrying about other people's perspectives.
Sure.
And what I'm saying is, don't totally write that off because that's a skill.
Okay. Yeah.
It's good that you felt that way for that long because now you can spin it as a positive.
Right. Yeah. This isn't a quote I have written down, but actually last night I was listening to another Modern Wisdom podcast, and he was talking about how it's Alex Hormozy was talking about how it's so important to put a positive spin on things and look up on things, right? And it's like, if you know, let's say you don't have this, or you grew up poor, or
you woke up late,
right? Like, and his answer to any of those excuses is, so what? Like, so what? Like, do something. Like, can you not do something? And then he made the extreme example of, like, if someone with one leg comes up to him and is like, I can't run a marathon, and his response more genuinely is like, so what? Like, put on one of the metal spring legs and like go run it. Like, you could still do it. You just choose not to do it.
It's interesting, that quote, because it can be perceived two very different ways.
Yeah, it can be.
It's dependent on the kind of person you are, right?
Yeah.
Because if someone with one leg,
very polarizing.
If someone with one leg comes up to Alex Hormozy and he says, I can't run a marathon, and Alex says, so what, right? You and I view it as the full sentence being, so what, put on a prosthesis and start training, right? Other people will hear that and say, so what, I didn't want to run a marathon anyway. And they use the so what mentality to just stop and just quit and just do what's easier, right? Find the path to least resistance, right? And it's interesting that when you and I hear that quote, we immediately think, so what, make it happen anyways, right? You woke up late, so what, you woke up late, so what, you were wrong about the appointment we have at 2 p.m. anyways, so we just made an hour happen because we're bad at planning. But it doesn't matter. It's so what, our work is going to get done anyways, right? There's a balance between what's in your control and what's out of your control, right? Because waking up on time is fully in your control, but not having a leg is usually not a choice.
Usually, yeah.
But my quotes this week are, I think, all about the work that we've been doing. Because this past 2 weeks especially, ever since I had the idea for that epoxy project, I've been like locked in on this, right? Totally obsessed. And this past week especially, through work, through the gym, through eating, through sleeping at night, all I'm thinking about is like, what am I going to do next when I get to my laptop? And what are we going to work on next, right? So all my quotes are super tunnel focused on working like a goddamn animal. And the first quote that I really love is, you can define commitment by eliminating alternatives.
Yeah, I like that. You know,
and I bring this up because at the point in my life right now, I'm living with my parents and I'm moving out, right? And we want to quit our 9-to-5s, right? My mom is terrified, right? Because my whole life I've done what she's asked me to do to the letter, and it's gone well. I've done everything, right? Got good grades, went to college, got a job, got promotion, right? And I'm not happy, but she's happy. And at this point, I'm ready to move out. Baby bird's ready to fly, right? And everybody goes through that. She isn't ready for it. She's not happy about it, but she's accepting of it. It's going to happen, right? And now she's terrified because I'm like, not only like moving out, but I'm also quitting my job. And she's like, what? But this is what you've worked for your entire life, right? Like, what are you going to do? And so in the conversation we were having the other day, I was talking about how I just recently got a promotion at work, and I thought I was getting fired for him because my boss called me and said, hey, I need to talk to you. And I was like, fuck. And he was like, can you come to my desk? And I was like, yeah. So I went to his desk And I've been having problems with HR lately. I'm not a good employee. I'm a bad employee. And I'm running through my head of the list of things that it could be. And I'm like, whatever, so what? This is just what I'm going to deal with this afternoon, right? I'm going to work on some Kahuna stuff, and then I'm going to time split and just start building out my resume to apply for another job because I don't have enough money to make it to the big Kahuna step. So I get to his desk and I sit down, and he's like, I want to have the compensation conversation with you today because I can't do it tomorrow. And I was like, oh. And he was like, you're going to get a 3% merit raise. You're going to get a bonus, and then I'm going to put you in the paperwork for promotion. I was like, okay. And he was like, what? And I was like, okay. And he was like, are you excited? And I was like, I mean, no. Because I felt in that moment the same way I did when I thought I was getting fired, which is, okay, like this is what I'm going to deal with. And if I'm not that happy, right, at that job, at the epitome of this should be the highlight of my year. And if I don't care, if I care the same amount as if I'm losing the job, I shouldn't be there. So I told my mother this, and she started to freak out. And she said, don't you want to have a good reputation with your boss, like a good relationship? And I was like, I do. And she was like, well, I mean, shouldn't you be grateful? And I was like, why? I earned the money that he's giving me, and B, I don't care. And she said, well, what if you need to use him as a reference for a future job? And I said, there is no future job. She said, well, what if the business thing doesn't work out? And I said, if this business doesn't work out, I'm going to start another one that does. Like, I will not be a W-2 employee again. It won't happen.
Yeah.
And she couldn't get her mind around that. She couldn't get her mind around the fact that I'm eliminating alternatives because I'm committed to this. So this is the quote that I want to talk about. Get your perspective on it.
I think I see it in a very similar light. I mean, every single time that we've had something that we are really driving towards, like even let's say drop shipping, for example, we tried, about a year ago at this point, or a little less, but that was like our first tunnel vision moment outside of SAE, where it was like, okay, this is going to work. Let's throw everything out the wall. And we learned how to build a website, do advertising, make a new email linked up through all the Facebook and Instagram and TikTok pages, and create this whole network through the wholesaler as well to get these products out there in like 2.5 weeks, like max. I think it took us even less than that. But it was like, our visions were set on that being the exit out of the 9 to 5. And we were already so done with working as a W-2 employee.
We hadn't started.
Yeah.
I had just started, and Northrop Grumman had me working.
Still at Autobahn.
Yeah. Northrop Grumman had me working in the icebox. So I was doing everything from my laptop remotely because I couldn't.
And we still hated it.
The office. Exactly. Like, we hadn't started. You hadn't gotten the NASA job yet. We hadn't started the office jobs. And we were like, I don't want to do this. Right.
But in my mind, I was thinking, I have to move out of Mason's place in 2 months. And my income from the Autobahn job is equivalent to exactly my rent and utilities. So I can either fast for 30 out of 30 days of the month and not buy anything else, or I need to figure out an alternative. And that was like my only real alternative, because I saw it as an online venture that wasn't as time consuming but had good revenue potential. And so like my alternatives in that moment, at least in my frame of mind, were limited. So that's why I went full commitment on trying to make it happen.
Right.
And so I really agree with that.
What's the reason I chew on this one for so long is it's similar to the burn your boats quote, right? But what's interesting to me is that from the example that I gave with my mom, the way she views it is, if you don't build a good reputation for your boss, you can't get a job again, right? And I'm saying I'm not going to need one, right? But I also believe wholeheartedly that I can make anything happen. So if push comes to shove, I have to, or decide I want to get a W-2 job again, it doesn't matter what relationship I have with my boss right now. It's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
So by eliminating alternatives, it could just be in your head. Like, it could be total dedication to a cause, to the point that you refuse to take any other action. Yeah. And that counts as eliminating.
And people are so weak overall. Like, there's so many people who are like not super strong minded or super strong, have a super strong opinion about something. For example, like if you were to go to your boss tomorrow and you're like, hey, screw you, I hate this job, fuck you, I'm out of here, right? And you just end it on a horrible note, right? And you come back a year later, like, if you approach the conversation with him as a strong individual with, a good train of thought and, having a plan coming in, like it's so easy to manipulate people into what you want them to do. Like it's so easy, especially if you have that capacity. And because it's just so many people don't think for themselves anymore and don't have strong opinions and don't have like strong thoughts about the world around them or individuals. Like they're so easily manipulatable.
Well, I
so
think
easy.
part of the reason, to go back to your first quote, is because they view the world from someone else's perspective. It's how are they going to feel, right? And I think that ties into compassion, which is a whole other topic, right? I think it's good to have moderation, but not excess.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
2-second quote.
There are advantages and disadvantages to every position. You just have to play your advantages and write down your advantages. So that kind of plays into the one leg thing that we talked about.
Yeah.
Right. And it's interesting because in that part of the podcast, he also said, like, if you've been, this is going somewhere positive, so bear with me, but if you've been sexually abused or racially profiled or another form of discrimination, right? Like he was like, that is not your fault, right? Like you have been screwed by the system around you, but you can still do something because let's say you've been racially profiled. You're a black man trying to, become an entrepreneur and you don't feel at home. And you can be a voice for other people in the black community who want to be entrepreneurs. And you can be that person to lead that team.
Lewis Hamilton.
Exactly, Lewis Hamilton on Formula One. And that's something that, someone like ourselves or Alex Hormozi, trying to become an entrepreneur wouldn't be able to do because there's a million white men who are trying to become entrepreneurs, right? So he has an advantage in the sense that he has a disadvantage in the sense that he's been racially profiled within this certain group, but he can play it as an advantage to help fuel him through that process. Right. And so it's interesting how, it's really about a glass half full versus glass half empty mindset. How can I spin the world around me so that it's more positive and so that I, have advantages that I can use? Or another one that he used too was like, if you're a brand new salesman and you're trying to make a sale to a customer and you call them up, you could be like, I don't have much experience. I really don't know what I'm doing. Or you could be like, my business is just starting out. We're so small. I can give you all my undivided attention. I can answer whenever I want, versus like someone who's calling from a big business could be like, man, we're so busy. You're not going to be a personal customer to us, but like, if you can make this deal happen, it would be cool. Or they could be like, we've had 20 years of experience. We have the best staff around and we have all the good deals hooked up before they even go on the market. So it's about how you play your sides.
I think that goes hand in hand with the positivity comment from earlier. It's like spin everything into a positive, right? Because if you're disadvantaged, turn it into a positive. I think, man, help me figure out what this quote is, but while we were working in SAE, I had this quote at the time. It's written down in my phone. I'm not going to get it, but I used to say, what we need to do as leaders in SAE is take a bad situation, right, and turn it into a situation that's better than it was before the bad situation hit, right? So I can't think of an example at the time. Something with the Mercedes.
I remember with the Mercedes.
Sandra and I ran the Florida Tech SAE Motorsports team in our senior year of college, and we had a Mercedes S-Class donated to us at the beginning of that year, and we didn't have plans for the car. We weren't really sure what to do with it. All our efforts were based on building the race car, but we decided to let the underclassmen kind of take the lead on the Mercedes.
Yeah. So what happened with that Mercedes, we got it donated. And then the mechanical engineering department head, about 6 months after we got it donated and we'd already started working on it and incorporating it into the team, came to us and he was like, hey, I want to use this for an EV conversion project with electrical engineering. And here in your documentation upon the donation, it says that other departments can use this vehicle for X, Y, and Z. And that's a document that we had written when the car first got donated, because we were encouraged by him, actually, by the department head, to put in that it can be used for other departments so that we can get more signatures on it from other departments and stuff like that. And there's a higher probability that administration will let the car come and be donated to the team. And so that's what we put in there, and it backfired us because that same person was like, well, now I want to take it from you and use it, 6-8 months down the line after we've already been working on it and incorporating it into the team.
Bad situation because
Bad
electric
situation.
cars are boring and we want to build race cars.
Right, exactly. And also bad situation because that car had brought in a lot of underclassmen. And so there was a moment of like, shit, like, what are we going to do? But there was also that moment of like, hold on, if we don't blow all this money on this Mercedes to fix it up, we can give the underclassmen a pot of money that would have been equivalent to what they would have spent on this Mercedes to build it up. And then they can buy a project of their choice. And then they can, you know, have that project for themselves, do whatever they want with it. Now we can spin it as, you know, they have the opportunity to get whatever they want.
Right.
Instead of, oh man, now they don't have anything.
Right.
Right. So it's about spinning it in a positive sense. How can we, you know, use the same resources we have allocated already, but turn it around if challenging situations arise.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I like that quote a lot.
Yeah.
I like that.
Cool. I think it wraps that one.
Yeah.
Unless you have more.
Was that your second one?
No, I just came up with
Oh.
I still have
What?
I still have my second one.
Okay, yeah. No. Yeah, you're good. I was going to say go for your second one.
The second one is another Hermosi quote, needless to say. No work is wasted. I am the output of the work, not the outcome. And I take that to mean if you work at something and it's not successful, people can view that as a failure, but that's not really the case because you've grown from it. And so you're the output, not the outcome, right? Because the work that you did gave you self-growth, taught you lessons that you can apply further down the line. You know, I have this quote written down. Like, I can give it to you later.
No, I had ideas on how to comment on it.
Go for it.
Yeah. Drop shipping is a great example. We made no money drop shipping. It was a flunk, right?
You made like $30.
I did. I made like $30. I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. Best day of my life, right? Yeah. But we learned how to build Shopify stores incredibly quickly and so that they look good. You know, so now going into our Kahuna stuff, we were able to build up that site and make it look awesome in a weekend. Like, it was super quick.
Yeah.
So that was a tool that we had. We were already familiar with Facebook and Instagram ads. So once we start running ads for the Kahuna stuff or whatever other ventures we're going down, right, it'll be a lot easier for us to integrate our stuff into those ads because we've already done it. We learned how to use Canva. We'd never used Canva before dropshipping, and now we're like Canva experts. And now it has AI incorporated into it. And it's like, oh my God, this is awesome, right? ChatGPT came out. We're super good with ChatGPT now, right? ChatGPT is also good with ChatGPT, to be fair. But you know, we're good at using the tool, and we can generate a lot of stuff that we want. We know how to manipulate their algorithm or whatever to kind of work around the little glitches that they have with the logo stuff. Like, it only lets you generate 3 logos, but if you reword your sentences and kind of move around and maybe put it in a new chat, like sometimes you can get a few more out of it, right? So we learned that that was useful. And then on top of that, just communication through selling the baked goods at Kahuna. You know, at least I've learned, and I think you have too, how to sell a product, how to communicate with people, how to be charismatic, and, you know, how to be positive and, you know, not pressure people, but incentivize them to buy.
Right.
And so there, you know, so one person could look at dropshipping and go, I didn't grow at all because I started with zero money and I ended with zero money and I wasted 3 weeks in between.
Right.
But you learned so much. There's a huge learning curve in that span. It's just whether you decide to use it or not, right? And I'm sure there's other stuff that we learned that I'm just not thinking of off the top of my head.
Yeah, I mean, as you deep dive into it, there's tons.
Yeah,
he brought up this quote when he talked about how he owned his set of gyms and then sold them, and then his partner stole his money, so he had nothing. And he's like, "Fuck! Like, I wasted all this time." But I didn't waste all this time because I made several $100,000, right? I just lost it, right?
Right.
And the outcome looks like $0, but the output is I know how to build $100,000 of businesses, right? And I think we're at the stage right now where we're making small strides financially, but large strides in lessons. And that's ultimately going to get us further than having money handed to us.
It's like with Jordan Belfort. When he went to jail and lost a bunch of money, he came back and within the next year built a multi-million-dollar business.
Right.
Like, he could look at it as, oh, I started from nothing and then I ended with nothing.
Right.
But all that in between, he learned so much. He was able to come out of jail and then build up another multi-million-dollar business within a year. And
Right.
it's just like, that's just what I do. I like know how to do it now.
Right.
Right. So like you learn so much that you learn a lot that's not monetary.
You know what this
skill
is?
based.
You know what this is too? This is, you can look at it as a failure or you can look at it as a lesson learned. This also ties back to the just make everything positive.
Yeah.
Started the podcast with.
It does. Yeah. 100%.
What's your third one?
My third one. Oh yeah, there we go. My third one is you can move through life so fast by changing decision timelines from the end of the week to the end of the day. And I love this because a lot of the times I'll go into tasks, even with you on Kahuna or whatever, and we'll be like, okay, like by the end of the week, we got to get it done. And so that gives us, the next, let's say 3 days to work through it so that we're done by the end of the week. But even if I put the mindset pressure of let's try to get it done by the end of the day, I might fail at that task because, fail. I might not complete that task because it's just too much work to get done before midnight or 1 or whatever. But it puts the pressure on mentally so that the next day you have less to do. And then if you finish it up the next day rather than the one after, now you have another opportunity to get a little bit more done a little bit more quickly.
Right.
So it shifts your ability to be able to get stuff done so much more quickly. And in conjunction with this, something that I've tried to do is change how quickly I come to a decision to work. So it's like, as soon as I think of something now, I almost immediately write it down or start working on it. Like I have a notes page opened up on my laptop. And as soon as I think of something, anything random that pops up that I need to do later or that I should think about later or that I should incorporate into some other project or whatever, I write it down. Because I know that I'll forget if I don't write it down, and then I'll waste time later trying to think of it. And then I won't remember exactly what it was anyway, but I'll, come up with something, whatever, right? It's bullshit and it's a waste of time. So I've started to write stuff down immediately. And if I think of something that I need to do, like make a post for Kahuna, I don't say, oh, okay, I'll do it later. I just do it now. Like if I think of it in the moment, I do it right then and there because I know I'll forget to do it if I don't. And there's no point in me waiting because in that moment, my mind is already set to make the post. So why don't I just do it? I'll be more efficient right now anyways, rather than putting it off to later.
Right.
And so moving my timelines mentally to, closer rather than farther away has really helped me go through tasks more quickly and more efficiently. Mm-hmm. Something that Alex Hormozi talked about was like, you can work literally 7 times faster than the person who says by the end of the week than the person who says by the end of the day. Like right. By the end of the day, person will work 7 times faster. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, shit, yeah, that's true. I didn't even think about it that way though. Mm-hmm. Which is really cool. You take as much time as you can for the task that you have. If you have one homework assignment during school and it's due by midnight, you'll draw that out until midnight and work on it here and there, go cook dinner, whatever, right? Mm-hmm. But if you have 4 homework tests that are due by midnight that night, you're going to crank all of them out through, be done, and then eat dinner after you're done with those, right? So it's just about shifting your timeline.
Yeah. I learned this lesson from my dad several years ago. When I was looking at the different companies to apply for, right? I was looking at Lockheed, Northrop Grumman, and NASA. And my dad told me to heavily weigh which one I was going to go with because government companies work much slower than private companies, right? They take longer in their decision-making timelines. And as a result, the work isn't usually as fast-paced, right? And that comes at a cost because they don't pay their employees as much. So if I work for a private company, I might be able to make more money, but I have to work a lot faster. And at the time, I thought, well, I'm not scared of hard work, right? And so long as I can keep up, I don't get cut and I get paid for it, I'll work for it, right? Because I'd never had a problem making fast decisions like that. But I recognize that in management, it's not always easy to make decisions quickly. And my dad struggled with this every once in a while in making rapid decisions in management, because when you get to the top, those level of decisions can change people's lives, right? Yeah. And managing risk is difficult at a higher level. And I think it's important that we practice at this lower level, making balanced decisions quickly, because it's going to come to a stage where we have to make very important decisions very quickly. Yeah. And we need to be able to weigh the pros and cons very fast.
I hear that. I think the irony of it is that, going back to a private company versus government contractor, although the private company may work faster, neither of them work out even close to the pace that we work at.
Yeah.
And I think that's funny, just in retrospect.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that I think a lot of the mindset stuff we're going through, a lot of the business stuff we're doing, these podcasts and stuff are really setting us up from a mental perspective to be able to make those challenging decisions in coming years. Mm-hmm. So I think that's really valuable. And I'm glad that we're documenting our process and our thought process.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Yeah, so, me too. I'm happy with where we're at. And I'm sure that, 5 years down the line, we'll come back and look at these and think we didn't know jack shit.
Yeah, but, right. But it'll be so cool.
It'll be cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe we'll be like, man, like I had that thought way back then.
Maybe. And I'm, we still have a lot of growing to do and a lot of changing, and that'll happen as we, acquire and build businesses. But I think the only thing that won't change is my last quote, which is, you're done with your quotes, right?
Correct.
Good. I want to end on this one. And the quote, at work, we use Skype to message each other. And every day I pick a new motivational growth quote to put up there. And that's the quote I think about for that 24 hours, right? And I think about it and I reflect on it and I try and apply it to my life until the next morning when I pick a new quote. So it's kind of like, instead of a quote once a week, it's a quote once a day type of mindset, right? Like I can grow every day. And on Tuesday, I found this quote and I chose other quotes Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, but this one has not left my brain. I've thought about the other ones, but this one stuck with me and is still sticking with me. And the quote is, I cannot lose if I do not quit. And that one, every single day, every single second, it's just, I am ready to work my ass off for this. It's going to happen. It's not if, it's when, and when is coming quickly, right? And everything that we did to prepare for our presentation yesterday through all of last week was just nonstop, relentless effort towards it. And I think that showed, right? I think that we put on a good showing for that presentation yesterday, and I think our business partner was pleased with it. But man, it's just, that quote has kept me up at night.
Yeah, it's really interesting that that's your last quote, because I was going to bring up something like 20 minutes ago, but the person who says it is controversial, so I pulled back on it. But okay. I'm going to go for it anyway, because I think
good, yeah. We'll get canceled episode 2.
No, but it's important from a mental, if you take it as it is, it's important from a mental standpoint. And so I think it can be valuable to the audience.
Great. I don't know what this is. I don't consent.
Hey, you can't throw me under the rug. This is both our thing.
Hit me with it.
Andrew Tate says that Andrew Tate once said that other people think about trying as, if you try your hardest, that's good enough. But his take on it is, if you genuinely try your hardest, you cannot fail, right? And I think that's really powerful. Like, I think that's awesome, because it's like, if you genuinely think about, if you put in every single bit of effort that you could, you cannot fail, right? Like, if you're saying you're trying, right? You're trying, right? I'm trying to go to the gym. Oh, but I don't have time today. Or, oh, I don't have this, right? But if you tried your absolute hardest, you'd push everything aside to get to the gym every day, and you would make it happen, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's a really powerful frame of mind, right? And to carry that, and to try and weave that into your life, and start to really put in everything you have into the things that really matter to you, and cut down the noise and then focus on the few things that really count. I think that can really carry you a long way.
I think I work hard, right? We both do. I think I've genuinely only ever worked as hard as I possibly can twice in my life. And the first time was in high school, when I was going to a regional competition with my rowing team. And it was in a boat that I loved, and I wanted to get to nationals so badly. And so I worked my ass off for months for that. Right? And the second time was crunch time for SAE.
Yeah.
Right. I think it was the Australian Grand Prix for Formula One last year. Yeah. And we had, the night before, we had stayed up the entire night working on the SAE car. The entire day we worked on the SAE car. And we took a break to go watch the Formula One race. And you fell asleep immediately, right?
Yeah.
It's the Australian race, it's the middle of the night. You fell asleep immediately. I stayed up and watched it. I woke you up afterwards, and it wasn't even like a hey buddy, like we got to go back to work. It was like a Sander, and you were like, let's go. Like, you got up and you're like, all right, like we're falling asleep in the car, and then we stayed up until I think the next day.
Yeah, it was
We
like
stayed
2
up.
p.m. that
Yeah.
we gave out.
Yeah, and when we gave out, it was like so tired. We shouldn't have driven home to sleep. Like
Oh,
it's
God,
worse
no.
than drunk driving.
Oh,
right?
it's
Like
terrible.
we were that tired, but like that burst of like we did nothing but work, right? The only break we took was to watch that Formula One race, right?
Yeah.
For I think it was like a 4-day, so that's 24 times 4. That's 90 something,
It was a
96
lot of
hours.
hours.
96 hours we took to break to watch Formula One, right?
Yeah.
No sleep, just copious amounts of this shit, right? Like those are the only 2 times that I've genuinely given 100% effort. And it's frustrating because I'm throttled right now at the 9 to 5. I can't give 100% effort because at the very maximum, what I can do, I still have to spend 10 hours a day doing 9 hours at work and driving a half hour to and from. If I don't go to the gym, if I don't eat, if I don't sleep, like I still can't give half of the hours in the day to do this. And that's really frustrating to me. And so the I cannot lose if I do not quit quote, dude, it's so difficult to wake up at 6 a.m., drive 45 minutes to work, do a 9-hour day, drive 45 minutes home, right? Or go to the gym. Some days I try and go to the gym, right? I try. And then you eat dinner. It's fucking 8:30 at night. And my parents have their PJs on and they're like winding down for the evening. It's so difficult to put my backpack on and get back in the car to go back to work at 8:30 at night when everyone else is winding down.
Yeah, it sucks.
It fucking sucks, but I do it anyway. And this quote has gotten me to do it with a smile on my face every day this week.
That's a good one. I like that one a lot. Thanks for sharing.
Yep.
Cool. You want to wrap it up? Give us the time. Give us our plan for the day.
It's 1:20.
PM.
Yeah.
Because we're up at AM too.
That's right. It's 1:20 p.m. You have to be at an appointment 30 minutes away at 2. And then after that, we're going to bake. And then I have to meal prep for the week.
And then we'll do some Excel work
Orders
tonight.
Excel work. Yep. No work in the morning.
Cool. Thanks for tuning in.